Hello, this is Michael with Access Woodworks, and today I'm going to show you how to add a towel bar and update this old shelf. My wife recently purchased this nice old pine shelf to repaint to hang in one of our bathrooms. At one point in time it had a towel bar in it, and it's got these nice little carvings on the side, and it just would look nice hanging up in there. She had planned to do this herself, but wasn't too sure how to replace the towel bar. And when she looked online and at YouTube and Instructables and various other places for videos on replacing towel bars, all she found was how to replace a bar that had been ripped out of the wall. So she asked me to do this for her, and I figured while I was at it I might as well make a video for the next person. The towel bar at one point in time had fit between the two sides, and she was kind of afraid that you might break it or have to drill it out somehow. And I can see, looking at it, at one time it had holes drilled in here, but looking at the back I see this side's a little loose and needs to be fixed anyway. So I think what we'll do is just cut a towel bar to length to fit and just be able to pry it apart, and then I'll re-glue and maybe tack this down. The other thing I wanted to add is I saw on the back of here they have some picture hangers, and I really don't like that as a way to hang, especially something that's a towel bar. You're going to be pulling a towel off of it. It might pull the whole shelf off. So what I want to do is add a batten across the back, take these suckers off, and that way we can screw this directly into the wall, into some good wall anchors, so we don't have to worry about it moving. So those are two little upgrades I'd like to make to the shelf. So what's the process of actually figuring out how wide this needs to be? What we need to do to determine the depth of our hole is I've just got a little depth gauge here, and we'll just measure it real quick. It looks like it's about 1/8 of an inch, and yeah, that's what it's coming out to, is about 1/8 of an inch. And so what I want to do is measure the width of this shelf here. It's about 13 7/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8 is going to be 14 1/8. So I'm going to have to cut this old broomstick that I found that happens to be a perfect size to fit in there. We'll cut that to 14 1/8 inches long. The other thing we need to do, because this is an old shelf, I don't know how square it is, I'm going to measure up here too, where I want to put the batten. So we'll measure across the top, and I've got 13 3/4, and so we'll cut our batten to go up here at 13 3/4. We'll do that on a table saw using a crosscut sled. Okay, so since I don't have a big fancy miter saw or miter station, I'm going to be using this crosscut sled to cut both my batten and my towel rod. So the dimension I took was 14 1/8 for the towel rod. Okay, and say 13 3/4 for the batten. Do we have a clean end on one of these? I'll tell you what I'm going to do is clean one of these ends up, make sure it's nice and straight before I measure it. Thirteen 3/4. It's right about there. Easy peasy. Yes, I don't have one of those fancy setups where my dust collector turns on automatically, but I'm happy with what I've got. Just clean these ends up a little bit with some sandpaper. Looks good. Let's see here. Got a little 100 grit. Try and clean this up a little bit. So when we go to paint it, we won't have anything that's hanging off. That's pretty good. Alright, that looks good. And we don't have anything outstanding here. I may run this through a planer just to clean it up. Alright, so we're basically done with that. Okay, so now that we have our towel bar cut, I'm going to clean the paint out of these holes. And I just used a basic scraper to clean it up. I am going to glue it in here, but I also want to use some screws through the ends in order to hold the towel bar in place. And so what I'm going to do, I've got my screws, I sized that, I've got a countersink. I want to make sure that my hole is centered here, and so this was cut with, looks like a Forstner bit, so I'm just going to run a pilot hole out towards the ends through where that is located. Hopefully no, did I get that in there straight? Alright. It's kind of coming out in a weird spot on this side. I'm glad I didn't just drill in the center of that where I thought the hole was. Okay, so we'll do a countersink. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to cap where the screws go. I happen to have some 3/8 diameter oak and plugs, so I just need to drill that deep enough for my plugs. And that looks pretty good. It's not too... I do want to be careful. This wood is very soft. In fact, now I'm drilling into it, it doesn't look like pine. It may be pressboard. I guess that molding isn't as impressive on pressboard. Maybe a little bit more. Alright, so let's dry fit this, make sure it goes in there. It looks pretty good. Alright, and our screw depth looks okay. We got our plugs. Oh, there's the other one. Alright, so I'm going to use Type Bond 3. Just what I happen to have. Remember, with your PVA glues, your polyvinyl acetate, you do need to shake it up pretty well first for maximum bond strength. Little tip I learned a while back. And before I screw this together, I'm going to take a look. I got, kind of have this gap in here. Looks like it's just paint. But I want to squirt some glue in here before we clamp it up. Yeah. It's not the cleanest. Anyway. Alright. That looks pretty good. Let me grab a clamp. Gotta love these Harbor Freight clamps. They do a good job. Okay. So, put a little bit more glue in this gap here. Force it down. This poor screwdriver gets used more for mixing and forcing glue in than I think using screws. It's the perfect size. Okay, so put a little PVA on each end, a little glue, just force that end in. Yep. Alright, looks good. I should have thought to do this before. I'm going to pre-drill into the end. This will just make it easier to go in. They are self-tapping deck screws that I'm going to be using. If I was using wood screws, it would be a good idea to put a little wax on them. Slow that down. Okay. I don't think this towel bar is going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Alright. And that'll fit in there pretty well. Okay, so a little bit of glue on our plug. Now, do this a little bit better here. And try and get the grain going vertical. Boy, it is raining outside. I hope you guys can hear me. It's been super humid today. Alright, put this together. Quick wipe off. Alright. So we got that. That towel bar is not going anywhere. Alright, so the last thing I wanted to do, we did glue this up. We want to put a little pressure there to help hold that. Okay, so my last little improvement is going to be to add this little cleat in here so we can screw through the backside into the wall directly, into some wall anchors. So that'll just make it a lot simpler in the end to mount it. So in order to do this, the first thing I do want to do is put some holes in and some countersink that. So what we'll do is maybe, I don't know, 1.5 inches from the ends. We'll put some, just make a little mark. approximately. I know the China marker isn't perfect. And then maybe, let's see, how wide is this? This is 1 inch and just over 1.25 inches. So that would be 5/8 is about half of that. Isn't that right? Check my math, huh? We'll just, again, just to make it match. So what I'm going to do here is do my countersink. This way, when we go to mount it to the wall, the screw will countersink right into that and be flush. If you use something brass, it'll look nice. Alright. I know I should probably use a depth gauge, but make that look good. Okay, so that looks good. Alright, so what I'm going to end up doing is I think I'm just going to use some finish nails to hold that in place rather than screws. So I've got some finish nails. I do want to do some countersinks on that, so let's find a countersink in the box. Yeah, that's probably be alright. Okay, so quickly on this, make sure that's pre-mixed. Just put a little bit around here, a little bit of glue, nice and easy, help hold everything in place. Almost put it in backwards. Got to pay attention. All right. So we'll just hold that like that. Like a so. Okay, so basically that's it. I was able to take this old shelf that my wife bought. We added a towel bar back to it. Put some nice little end plugs over where the screws were added so that will not come out again. We also added this nice cleat to the back so that when you hang it up on the wall, we can just drive some screws in there. Fortunately, they kind of line up with those holes so that with an extended driver we can get that through to screw it in, but it'll be secured to the wall in such a way that it's not going to come off very easily. So, hope you enjoyed, learned something. The next person who's looking to replace a towel bar that hasn't been ripped out of a wall, hopefully they'll see this and realize it's not the big of a deal. Have a great day. Please like and subscribe.